You're welcome back to Business Morning. Nigeria's Finance Minister, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, was speaking on the sidelines of the just concluded World Economic Forum in Davos Cluster, Switzerland, where she said that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is doing everything it can to increase non-oil revenue and also to plug the leakages in the economy. Let's listen to the conversation she had with Channel's business editor, Bosna Mafai, in Davos.
Well, currently, I think as everybody in Nigeria knows, we're facing some challenges, and there are no prizes for stating that. That's obvious. Oil prices are at a historic 12-year low at about 31. They went as low as 28, and they're volatile. And of course, for a country that depends on 70% on oil for 70% of its government revenues, is exposed to some vulnerabilities in our economy that are having a fairly adverse impact. So, in the short term, we have challenges, and we're working very hard to ensure that we minimize the impacts of those challenges. And therefore, looking now forward to the medium term, or the shorter to medium term, we are looking to stimulate the economy. We recognize that if we allow the economy to slide, it will slide into recession, and that will be catastrophic, not only for Nigeria, but for the entire region. So the solution is to act what we call counter-cyclically. That is, when the economy is going down, government operates in the other direction, spending money to stimulate the economy. What is unique about what we're trying to do, particularly with the 2016 budget, is that spending is on capital, largely on capital. And why do we do that? Because we've recognized that capital spending will do two things. It will stimulate the economy, it will stop the slide towards recession. It will create jobs, but more importantly, it will build the platform for the future growth of the economy. And where we want to be in the future is we never again want to be battered by oil prices. We have seen how punishing the markets can be. When you live day to day by something where today the price is 68, tomorrow it's 28, you can't plan for the long term. So what we need to do is, and we've said it, we've been saying it consistently probably for about 30 years, we need to diversify our economy. Now, I think Nigeria is saying never again. We don't want to be where we are ever again. So we need to now build a non-oil economy. So what we've done on the budget is there's about 1.8 trillion of deficit, and we split it effectively 50-50 because the majority of our obligations at the moment are Naira. And we don't want to do too much Naira for the simple reason we don't want to crowd out the private sector. Because if government's competing with the private sector, and even if we put the infrastructure in place, rates would be too high for businesses. So we're very, very conscious of the need to balance that. So let government borrow the barest minimum in the domestic market and move to the international market. In the international market, what we've done is we're looking at the lowest cost loans, which of course are for the multilateral agencies. So we've spoken to the World Bank. They've offered to give us $2.5 billion concessional rates. Same with ADB, $1 billion concessional rate. So it's only about $1 billion that will be at commercial rate. So by the time you blend our average rate of interest, it's going to be fairly low and fairly consistent. And it's long-term money that we're borrowing because we're investing in long-term projects. You know, rail, roads, housing, power, infrastructure that 20, 30 years' time will still be there.
And these are projects that have long gestation periods. So you are the finance minister. How would you be balancing the books until this infrastructure begin to pay in themselves and yield dividends?
That's a very good question. And that's the other side of our strategy, which is another step change from what's been happening in the past. Our non-oil revenues, our independent revenues, are a huge part of our budget. Where are those revenues? Areas like our ports, our airports. I'm sure you've been watching the debate around revenue suppression, revenue leakages. Now let me tell you my understanding of the history. There was a need to separate policy from the revenue generating agency, what we call the business of government. So rather than have the Ministry of Transport, for example, collect port fees, or have the Ministry of Communication collect from the telcos, we set up all these boards, NCC, NPA, so many of them. And unfortunately, I think because the oil revenue was really flowing, we didn't ever look and say exactly what are they doing with those monies. For the first time now, we're looking at those monies and we're finding out actually it's significant money. And what's been happening in many of those boards, they were set up, they were told you will generate a surplus, 80% of which should go to the Consolidated Revenue Fund, which is back to government for government to spend. Many of them have never credited a penny. Not a penny, a kobo.
Of the 80%?
Nothing. And many of them operate in such a way that they don't even generate a surplus. So they make sure that everything they earn, they spend. Nobody runs any organization that way. And what is even more shocking is that some of them, government actually pays the salaries, pays the capital, pays the overhead, and then all the money that they generate, they spend. Not on capital, not on anything that is particularly tangible, they just spend. So it's financial indiscipline. If we didn't have oil, would we say port fees should not come to government? If we didn't have oil, would we say passport fees should not come to government? If we didn't have oil, would we say telecoms charges should not come to government? And some of them have become so indisciplined that the kind of projects they even embark on have nothing to do with their core function. So, for example, recently I've been dealing with a regulator who was building a school. Building a school is not the job of a regulator. The building a school is the job of the Education Ministry. What they should do is generate a surplus, pay it in, then let the Education Minister decide want to build a school or want to build a university. I'm sure you're aware of the controversy with the Minister of Transport and NIMASA funding a university. That is not their core function. So we're reining everybody in.
Is this part of the efficiency units?
No, this is different. This is revenue. I'll talk to you about the efficiency unit. So this is revenue. Every naira, the Constitution is very clear. All revenues of government must be paid in to government fund, the Federation account, the Consolidated Revenue Fund. And it is from there, with their budget, that you will spend. So what we're doing with these agencies is saying, now go and bring your budget. Let's look at what you actually need to spend. What's been very gratifying is the fact that I think Nigerians, because of what we're going through, there's a sense of camaraderie, let's come together. What's been really gratifying, some of the staff of these agencies actually writing to us, they're spending money, just...
Nigerians are whistleblowing.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying, Honorable Minister?
They are. Writing to us and say, look, come to our own agency, come and see what they're doing. Come and see what they're doing.
Down in Lagos, where the stock exchange is based, more than 2 trillion has been wiped out investors' portfolio this year. Does it bother you?
Of course it does. Of course it does to some extent. But portfolio investors, it's a bit like the oil price. It's volatility. There's always some volatility. I think what's very important is let us build the fundamentals of the economy, because that's ultimately what will drive stock exchange value.
You've been in Davos for a couple of days. You've been attending meetings and having discussions. What are these discussions all about?
Well, I think what's been very gratifying is that everybody you see, from the Treasurer of the UK, finance ministers of Ukraine or Finland, everybody is trying to chart their own course. Everybody is in the same position to various degrees. Global markets are uncertain, China is slowing down. But what I'm hearing, which I think is very gratifying, is that everybody's saying, look, you have to work out your own path. There's no one size fits all. And that's, very gratifying. And that was sort of reinforced by the visit of Christine Lagarde when she came. Because the Nigerian story is a Nigerian problem. We created the problem ourselves. The solution is going to come from within.
Honorable Minister, you're so optimistic about the state of the recovery, the journey to recovery of the Nigerian economy. How long do you think it will take?
I can't tell you, but I'll tell you that we'll get there. I can't tell you. I wish I could. And anybody who tells you that they can predict the future is deceiving you, and I'm not here to deceive you. I'm here to tell you that if we take the steps that we're taking, and if everybody pulls together, we will transform this economy.
But you're bullish on the economy?
Absolutely. I'm bullish on Nigeria.
I'm bullish with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Kemi Adeosun.